Designing baits. I absolutely love to design baits to catch bass. I've designed a bunch of crankbaits. I've designed a bunch of soft plastic lures. I've designed a bunch of different baits. Almost every one of them are on the market, either under SPRO or missile. But the SPRO Little John Micro DD, I was just going to kind of walk you through the process of how I designed the Micro DD, kind of what we do. And then the soft plastics are a different deal. I have to do another video on that. But for this SPRO bait right here, this is the SPRO. This is where it all begins. It comes from an idea in my head, and what I wanted to do was create a small profile little crankbait that got down into the 10-foot depth range. So kind of an unprecedented depth range for a little tiny crankbait. And that's what we did. So it started out on this graph paper. I just designed the actual shape to specs. And then I put the measurements in there of where everything should be, you know, as far as the width, the overall length, and kind of the exact taper, and then exactly where the hook hangers were supposed to be. And this is not the first bait that I've done with SPRO. This is probably like the 13th or 14th one that I've done with SPRO like this. So I kind of understand their language of what they need in their factory. They use a factory in Japan that actually puts this into design software, and then they make the samples. So that's the people I deal with in Georgia. They relay everything to the people in Japan, and that's how we communicate. But so I have all these measurements on there, exactly how I wanted it done. And then it doesn't take too long. It takes usually a month or two, sometimes 3. And then lo and behold, in the mail will show up a little sample of a bait. And in this, usually when it shows up, it'll either show up one of 2 ways. It'll show up like this, kind of a clear bait, so I can see exactly what's going on the inside. Initially with this bait, we're going to put a weight transfer system in it like the other Little Johns. Well, in testing, that didn't work. The bait's just too small, throws the balance off, it doesn't work. And then sometimes when we go to the next step, they'll just send me all these parts. Like this was from the Baby Fat John. They send me 2 halves, because when all these hard plastic crankbaits are made from 2 halves. They put all the internal pieces in the bait, and then they mold it together. Now, back in the day, they used to take these 2 parts and vibrate them together in a machine, and they would actually melt the seam. That's not super efficient, and it's not very consistent. So the way they do it now is they put all the hardware in there, then they put some solvent, some really hard solvent right on the seam. It starts to melt the plastic. They wait a certain amount of seconds, and they put that together, and then it molds. It actually melts because of the solvent. It melts into one solid piece almost every single time. And you can see there's the bill pieces, and then there's the weights and everything, and then there's the eyes. So what we would do is I've put a number of these together myself. Put the eyes on there, and then like these ones here, when I got the initial running samples from SPRO, they had that weight transfer system in there, and I wanted to fish with them. So I fished with them when they were in this clear portion like this. I found out real quick that weight transfer system was not going to work. So I went into the belly on these ones right here. You can see these 3 right here. I went into the belly, drilled a hole, then I injected some super glue so that ball wouldn't move back and forth in that little channel. I super glued that together, and then I took some marine epoxy, epoxied over that hole, and then I went back out and tested these ones with a fixed ball. They ran great, and that's why the Micro DD does not have a weight transfer system in it, because you can still cast it a good ways, and it runs really, really good. So that's what I did with that. So then they sent me this guy to make sure the weight was right. This guy was good. Then they sent me, they actually sent me like 6 of them. So I had a painter buddy of mine, Mike Russell, Bag 5 Baits. He painted these ones up for me to actually fish with. And they run like a champion. They run really good. And then lo and behold, COVID hit. So our launch got delayed about 6 months as to when we were really going to launch the Little John Micro DD. And then just the other day, I got the shipment in where they're in the package, the Little John Micro DD 45. It is it says it dives 8 to 10. You can actually get it deeper than 10 feet on a traditional cast with 10-pound test. But then here's the final production one with the Gamakatsu hooks on it. Just the finished paint jobs. That's a Cellmate, one of my absolute favorites. I mean, it is just a cute little teeny crankbait, but it gets really, really deep. And that's kind of how the process goes, because I have to, once I get the samples in, I have to go fish with them, test them, give them feedback on different things. And one of the reasons I have so many of these bodies left over from the baby Fat John is because we went through about, I think on version 3, they just said, okay, we're sending you a whole bunch of bodies. They sent me probably 30 of these bodies, like 30 pairs. I mean, it was a huge big bag. Now this is all I have left. I made up 11 different baits. I put 11 different baits together and messed with the bills in order to get that thing to run right. I was moving the line tie around. I was trying different bill shapes. The bill shape that they sent me were really big, and I was filing them down and trying different shapes. So I finally got that baby Fat John dialed in. That's why I had so many of those. But when something's a little more tried and true, like this is just a tiny version, a micro version of the bigger DD, I knew this bait was going to run right. I just had to make sure that the weighting was proper and that I had the distance from the front of the nose of the bait. I had that distance correct, because that totally changes how the bait runs. So that's kind of the little process in a real short condensed version of how I designed the SPRO Little John Micro DD 45. It's finally available. It's finally out. They got the shipment in, so I'm very, very proud of it. And of course, you can already guess, I've already submitted another drawing to SPRO for the next bait. It has already begun. As soon as one comes in, the other one is already submitted. So I can't tell you what that is yet. You just have to wait and see what that next one's going to be when it comes out.